Hi, I'm Doug, your tech support representative here at Atlantic British. In this video, we're going to talk about spark plugs, particularly for the LR2 with the inline 6-cylinder. We find that a lot of people forget that you still have to change spark plugs on a regular interval because now they last so much longer. But the recommended mileage is 75,000 miles, which a lot of these 08s, 09s, older vehicles, they've all reached that mileage, if not higher. And so to help improve fuel economy and also on your performance and your miles per gallon, you want to change these over on a regular basis, definitely by the recommended interval. So what you can do, we have our maintenance and repair kit. You can find this on our website. The part number is LR005483SKA. And you can actually also access and download this maintenance sheet, which will give you the other maintenance items recommended for your vehicle and when they're recommended. So what we're going to do essentially is show you how to install the plugs. They're relatively easy on this design, easy access, something you can do in your driveway. Alright, so the first thing what we're going to do to access the top of this is remove this top shield. This just pops off. There's 4 little push pins. You pull up and you lift that right up and out of the way. Now you'll see that you have the coilovers right in a row, right on the top of the engine. And it looks a little crazy, but actually it's once we disconnect a few of these connectors, we can actually take this harness and put it back on the other side of this cap, and that'll give you easy access. If you feel that you may become confused about what goes where, now's the time to pull out your smartphone, take a few pictures, make sure it's in good light, and then this way when you're done and you're standing there going, where does this connector go, you can refer back to your pictures. Makes life much easier. So that's essentially what you would end up doing, is basically all these connectors down the line, and we take this harness and flip it back. We don't need to do that for the video, but we will show you as far as disconnecting these connectors. Most of them have squeeze tabs on them to release them, and you'll actually sometimes even hear a little click. And sometimes you need to push forward so it'll release. Now remember, these have been on here for a while, so some of these may come out very tight. Just be patient with those. You don't want to be breaking the tabs. So just to give you a better view, you can see the tab right here as I squeeze it lifts, and sometimes they don't lift up far enough. You can just take a small screwdriver and just lift just a little bit, and that's enough to pop them out. Don't pry hard. You don't want to break that tab. This is what locks this connector onto the coilover. So now all we need to do at this point, we're going to take this bolt out. This is an 8mm head, and we'll be able to take the coilover plug right out, and that gives us direct access to the spark plug. Just to note, as you go down and disconnect it, there are 2 ground wires that are bolted to the top of the head right behind the 2 center spark plugs. So you want to take those out so that you can flip the harness over. You'll see one here, and then there's one right there. And again, keep note of that because you want to make sure that you put them back on before you reassemble everything. You definitely have to have that ground. Now, you can basically just flip the harness right up and out of the way, and that opens everything up for easy access. And we'll pull the plugs out. Just a quick tip, when you pull these out, you want to double check them the end of the boot and look for any white lines, which is an indication of tracking. Which what can happen is if they get a little damp, the spark actually won't run down the plug but run up the tracking and go to ground in the head, creating a misfire. So you want to look for that. These look pretty clean, but if you do find one with the white line in there or cracking, I would recommend replace that coil over plug. This is telling you there's probably a crack in the boot. Alright, so spark plugs on this, you're going to use a 5/8 deep, probably preferably one with the rubber boots in them. They actually call them a spark plug socket. So what it does is once you push that down in and it locks onto the thread, the rubber boot will grab onto the ceramic of the plug. Now, the one thing that you definitely don't want to do is use a power tool to take spark plugs out of an aluminum head. You can damage the threads very easily. Always do these by hand. Same thing going back in. So essentially we went a little bit beyond the recommended mileage. We have a little over, just a touch over 80,000 miles on this. You can see they don't look bad at all, but you got quite a wide gap on there. But you can tell by the color of the plug, that nice tan color and whatnot, this engine's running just fine. So you want to change over these plugs, just as I said, over a period of time. They do break down a little bit internally. They burn away the tip. So the changing plugs is going to make a difference as far as both power and fuel economy. So with easy access, we can pull all 6 plugs out of here and change them over very easily. So here's the 6 plugs that we've pulled out of this engine. You can see 4 of them are burning pretty nice, but if you look at 2 of them, weren't quite burning as clean as they should be. And that's essentially you're going to be, it's from breakdown of the spark plug. Had no misfire codes, no indication that there was any rough running or there was anything going on that was going to create a problem. But there's an indication that, yep, spark plugs are starting to break down, and this will affect fuel economy and this will affect performance. So perfect timing on changing these plugs over. So we're just going to take a good look. The plugs come pre-gapped for the recommended gap, and you can see between a new plug and an old plug the huge difference due to wear. So that will also help, because of these computerized engines, they are preset on the timing, so they don't know to adjust for the gap. And again, that will change ignition timing. So we're going to put these in. Now, one little trick essentially learned a long time ago: when you're putting spark plugs in an aluminum engine, it's a good idea to dampen the plugs, and to be perfectly honest with you, the best thing to use is spit. Spit on the plug on the base, and you'll find it threads in easier, it'll seat better, and it doesn't affect the vehicle in any way. Alright, so we've got the spark plug screwed down in the hole, and just with very light pressure going to run it in to the point where with just lightly on the fingers you can feel the spark plug seat. And then just go about 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn, you'll feel it snug in, and that's all you need to do. You don't want to over torque them, you don't want to damage the threads. So we've got all the spark plugs in and seated, and so now it's just a matter of putting the coil overs back in. We'll seat all those all the way across, flip the harness over, make sure we get those 2 ground wires back on in place, and then reconnect all the wiring. If you want to neaten things up a little bit, because you're probably going to find that when you take the cover off, as you can see here, mice like to get into these areas because the cover sits up high, and mouse can make a nest. If you live in rural areas, you're going to find much heavier than this. You might want to wait until you've got the plugs in place, put the covers on, or even before you take them apart, maybe hit it up with a shop vac and draw it out. You don't want to blow it with an air gun, because then you might get the debris down in the spark plug holes. Okay. So now we just put back on the wiring. Now the majority of these connectors that we have here all have release tabs like we showed earlier, which means when you reinstall them, you'll know that you have a good connection. You should be able to hear a slight click, and you'll know that they're connected. So listen for the click. So make sure before you put the cover on, you've got all your electrical connectors on. Remember, you've got two grounds in the back, the 6 bolts on the coil overs, nice and snug. Don't over tighten, just snug them in, and just double check, make sure you got everything connected. So then we're just going to take the cover, and the fill plug pretty much lines it up. You'll feel it seat right in. just give it a little push, and that pops it in place. And there, essentially, you're done. So that's all you need to do to replace the spark plugs in your LR2. So when you're ready to do so, give a call to any of our knowledgeable salesmen at 1-800-533-2210, or you can click on this link that'll put you on the website and you can order it directly. And if you like our helpful videos, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and get more videos that'll help you maintain your Land Rover. So we thank you for watching, and Rover on.